All right, a very good morning to you. It's good to see you right here on Your World. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and today on the show we tackle education, all right? And we just want to understand, first of all, what exactly is happening in our education system, because a lot of students, and we have seen this over time, that most of them would prefer or would opt to study abroad. All right, so the big question is, what exactly is happening? Is it in search of greener pastures? Is it that when you have a certificate from abroad, you're guaranteed of better job opportunities and better offers at the same time? So that is what we want to figure out from today's conversation, because again, like we all know, it is said that education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it. Today, sadly, this isn't always the case, as many students unexpectedly do not have a promising future despite working hard. So now many are choosing to look for study opportunities abroad. So the question is, does it mean that our education system is not quality, all right, or is not offering quality, education to set them apart? And does having a certificate, like I said, guarantee better job opportunities? And what are some of the mistakes that people do during the process? And that is as far as looking to get opportunities to study abroad. So we interrogate all that in today's conversation right here on Your World. So if you have ever tried to look for study opportunities abroad and you want to share your story with us, feel free to do so at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter. Or if you want to call in live and tell us how your experience has been so far, again, feel free to do so. And we look forward to what you have to say. Again, it's at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter is how you can reach us. All right. So without further ado, my guests are already here. Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, who is an education expert. Dr. Thank you so much for always making time for us. Really, really appreciate your time. And it's good to see you this morning. And we also have Bob Mwiti, who is Director, Kenya Airlift Program. Good to have you this morning as well. Karibu sana. And we're also hoping to have Mercy Chebet Terus, who is a graduate. And again, if you are living in the country, you pretty much know her, okay? But if you have forgotten, and this is as far as what exactly happened in Uasin Gishu, and this is as far as the Finland scholarships saga is concerned. Can we just take a look at that reminder very quickly, and then we'll get back into the conversation of the day.
Mumetuita meeting sisi na wazazi wetu, mkasema meeting ya 9 AM. Number 1, mulifika saa ngapi? Probably you don't expect me to ask such a question, but these are the people that you elected for you to serve them. I may seem very foolish in front of you, considering I am very young. Guga hajakula kitu tangu asubuhi. Tumeleta wazazi wetu ni wagonjwa, wengine wako na pressure, wengine wako na diabetes, wengine wako na depression. Mr. Chelili, nilisoma na watoto wako watatu. Nataka nikuulize swali moja. Unajua dawa ya depression? Do you know any antidepressant? You don't. Nilisoma na Beryl B. Ako UK saa hii tukiongea. Nilisoma na Bernard ako Australia. Nilisoma na Bill ako Australia. Tulisoma primary. Mr. Barorot, tukikuwa meeting ulituambia kuna watoto wako wengine wako majuu. Ukasema ati ukaambia wa parents, si hao watoto wote ni wetu, si wote ni wetu. Ako wapi mtoto wa Barorota hapa asimame? Ako wapi wa B? Ako wapi mtoto wa Mandago?
All right, and we can remember how that went down. And again, the arrests were made. Investigation is still ongoing as far as the Finland scholarship saga is concerned. And we're hoping to have Marcy here to just tell us, first of all, how's everything so far? And after all that ordeal, does she still really want to go and study abroad? But again, before that, we still want, again, like I said, we are interrogating what exactly is happening. Why is it that we think a lot of young people want to or opt to study abroad? And what are some of the mistakes mistakes that are done in between. And for the parents as well who have their children who want to study abroad, what is it that they need to know as far as these opportunities and how to go about it so that we avoid cases of people being scammed? But before that, Dr. very quickly, analyzing our education system and seeing how many young people, because UNESCO says, and this is according to a report, right? In March 2023, and this is as far as UNESCO student mobility number, they said Kenya has 14,060 students who are studying abroad, right? So analyzing what our situation is like here in the country, what would you say from an education expert perspective?
Thank you for having me. Several things. One, first of all, students moving from one country to study in another is not a problem in the first place. It's a good thing. University education is universal. So a university gains value if it has this international conglomeration of students from everywhere, because that is what a university is supposed to be. So most universities all over the world are struggling and trying their best to attract students from different countries. Even here in Kenya, we have students from other countries, and it's good for the university. So that is a good thing. What is happening here is that we are mixing a number of things. A lot of our students going to, especially the West, are not just going to look for education. They're also looking for employment opportunities. And that's why there is such hue and cry and effort and going through all manner of pathways, including shortcuts, to try to go to the West to study. It is not going to study necessarily. Some of them are just going to look for jobs. And I think that that is one of the things we need to separate. We will see people going to study within the region. And I think that with the now proposed funding model and the way our universities have decided to price some of the courses they offer, we're going to see many more Kenyan students going to seek this education in neighboring countries within the region. And we'll start to see numbers rising that go to India like they used to be, because people are now going to be looking for the pricing of the courses. And that is going to be a trend that we observe soon. I think that we have a challenge as a country to ask ourselves, what is it that we want, our young ones to go and study out there? China had a policy of sending their best to Ivy League universities in the West, but there was a purpose and a goal that they sought to achieve, and there was therefore a plan on how we get them out there, who we get out there, and how we get them back. And I think that that is something we need to think about as we continue.
We don't have that in the country, do we?
We have made higher education a private person's decision. And that's why everyone is trying to do whatever they want, however they want, wherever they want, and using whatever mechanisms to get there. I think that we need to have a national policy that guides all these things. So if we want to take 100,000 students to the West to study, what are they going to study? Who is going to get them there? How are we going to get them back here? Why do we want them to go and study there in the first place? Because that is something that we need to think about as a country. If we consider higher education the important ingredient in our national development as it should be.
I mean, but when you look at our universities, there's so many things that are happening. There's sort of like wars, there is a corruption. And you speak to so many university students, they'll tell you, we focus here on more of like theory, but then again, when you compare to what is offered abroad, is more technical. So they would rather go there, get the technical skills that they need, maybe choose to come back home or maybe not, but they feel they get quality for quality education as compared to what is being offered here.
We could speak to quality, but quality is not domiciled in geographic boundaries. It's domiciled in specific universities. We have universities even in the US whose quality is inferior to University of Nairobi. So the fact that someone is taking a plane to go to university does not necessarily say where they are going to study. They are going to a superior institution.
And get
that's why I mentioned Ivy League universities and said we can have a plan to say we want our best students to go to these specific universities to study these specific courses for this specific purpose
and
as
come
a country
back.
And come back
home.
because we need that.
We need those skills.
I have in recent days had some of our national leaders telling every young Kenyan, go out there and look for what to do there.
Yeah.
This generation of Kenyans must stay here. They must build this country.
Okay.
We are in a difficult situation, but that is not the moment to run away. If all Japanese had run out of Japan after Hiroshima, there would be no economic power called Japan.
Yes, happening right now.
So there has to be a generation that says we will make the sacrifice
and
build.
Okay, I hear you. And I'm so happy that you've mentioned that, listen, the fact that you're going out does not mean that you're getting better as compared to what is being offered home, because that is one of the myths that a lot of people have, that when you go abroad, as long as I have that certificate that said studied in this particular university, you get better jobs.
If you recall running into the elections last year, some politicians presented certificates from abroad.
Yes.
From universities that no one has ever heard of in the world.
Or don't even exist.
So part of that hype is also to try and obtain fictitious credentials.
Okay, I hear you, Doctor. I hear you. Then we'll come back more to understand. So then, how do we strengthen, our universities so that yes, there's that option. You can go abroad if you want to, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that what is being offered locally is not of good quality. We'll come back to you for that. But Bob, you first of all run a program that helps students, bright students at that matter, to go and study abroad. But you also studied abroad, right? No, you started University of Nairobi and then strikes zilikuwa mingi sana. Went to Strathmore University, and then later on you went and got a job and did your master's, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So the big question is, first of all, why? Why not have your master's here in the country, and what was the experience like? Because a lot of people do not have the actual picture of what exactly it is like before you even get to that scholarship, and even when you get to that scholarship, getting the student visa in itself, and even studying and staying abroad, what that is like. All right, so before we talk about what we need to know, the ins and outs as far as looking for these opportunities are concerned, let's first of all take a look at your story, because you said that is what informed your decision to start this program. Yeah, correct. So can we go back?
All right, so thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to Kenyans. My name is Bob Mwiti, and I live in the US. I've been living there for the last 14 years. I live in a city called Tampa, in a state called Florida. So I went to the US in 2009. But before then, I was actually a student at Strathmore University. Like you said, I did BCom, Accounting and Finance. Before that, I was a student at Kubo High School in Meru County. Yeah, so grew up in Meru County at a village called Gikomene. And that's why I did my KCPA, passed well. But because of, school fees issues, I was admitted to Nairobi School but couldn't get in. So I ended up going to Kubo High School. And after that, then I went to University of Nairobi for some time. Then I left, as you said, and then I completed my bachelor's at Strathmore. So I got an opportunity to go to the US in 2009, and I went there for my master's. I went to a university called Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And then I graduated in 2011. Then, after that, then I worked in corporate America for about 5 years. I used to work for a Fortune 500 company back in Tampa. And then after that, I figured out, I needed to really solve some problems that a lot of bright Kenyans face, which I actually personally faced myself.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear, what exactly happened? What were the challenges for you that you figured, we could actually help a lot of people, to deal with this problem?
Yes, so my journey actually took so long because first I was denied visa 4 times. I got visa at the 5th attempt to get to the US. And of course also challenges to do with, I figured out that there's a lot of bright Kenyans out there who love to go and study abroad, but they don't have the finances because, for example, if you want to go and study in the US, it would cost you about 5 million Kenya shillings on average. And not many Kenyans out there have that kind of money. So it's a big challenge. And of course also, even, let's say for example, if someone gets an opportunity, they get maybe a scholarship on the other side to go and study, even that process of actually leaving Kenya and going to the US, it's costly. Yes. Right now, for example, we've been trying to relocate those who got visas for fall. And on average, tickets to go to the US one way, it's about 1,800. That's over 200,000, just the tickets. And now you have tickets, you have visa fees, you have something called service, you have immunization that you have to do. You also have to figure out where you're going to stay, you know, even if you have a scholarship on the other side. So it's a costly affair. And I figured out that I really needed to solve that problem. So what I did was I came up with the Kenya Airlift program. And basically what we do in the Kenya Airlift program is we basically finance students' relocation, tuition, and living expenses, because also when you're on the other side also you have to figure out utakuwa unakaa wapi, utakuwa unakula nini, hata kama umelipua school fees. So those are the challenges that mostly African students face to go and study abroad. And then also something that people really don't know is about how do you transition, because like what Professor said here, sometimes you find people also want to go study and maybe even work there for some time, maybe later on come back, like the way we've done. But still, for you to actually be able to go and work there after school, how do you transition? Because if you go to the US, for example, you go on a student visa. But then again, how do you transition from being on a student visa to actually getting the visa that allows you to live and work there? It's a big challenge that a lot of African students don't even know before they go abroad. And it's a big problem. So also we wanted to solve that in the Kenya Airlift program. And basically what we do is we hold students' hand in terms of, you know, how they have to figure out the whole process. Because it's a process that if you're on your own, you basically go, you know, you're going to make a lot of mistakes like I did, for example. Me, I had even to extend school by 1 semester because I couldn't get a job immediately. In as much as people think that when you go abroad, you're going to get a job, you know, after you're done with school. It takes a lot of time. And even for you to get a job and get those right documents to live and work there, you need a company that can actually sponsor you. And for you to get sponsored, you need to have skills that most Americans, let's say for example in the US, you have to get skills that Americans don't have. Because at the end of the day, even here in Kenya, at Upper Kenya, by the way, come, for example, there's a foreigner who wants to get a job here. Uwezi pata just like that. The company that is hiring you, they have to prove to the government that uko na skills and your Kenya hawana. And so that's really what happens on the other side as well.
So the big question is, and like you're saying, it's not an easy process. You have to go through, you know, a lot of processes. And even so, there's still no guarantee that number one, you will get a slot. In these universities. So what is it that is different there that is not being offered here? Because like you said, you need at a minimum, what, 5 million Kenyan shillings, which a lot of people would not afford, but still we see a lot of them want to go. So what is it that is working there that we all want to go, right? That is not being offered here, that is unique, that we all want to have a slice of?
All right, first of all, let me say this. Actually, Kenyan education is good. There is quality in our education. I went to school here for my undergrad, and I can compare both because I did my undergraduate here, I did my master's here, there. And in as much as we think, well, abroad, you know, maybe education system is much more quality, still there's some quality here. But generally, if you go abroad as a student, there's a lot outside of just books. There's a lot to learn, you know, because let's, for example, in the US, they allow on a yearly basis about 1 million international students. And if you go there as a Kenyan, you're going to be interacting with students from other countries, not just the Americans, Indian students, Chinese students, you know, students from all kinds of backgrounds.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal because you learn a lot from what these other students bring, you know. And even from my own experience, in fact, actually, I always say this, because once I was done with my master's, I transitioned to get into the tech space, even though I had a BCom.
A totally different, yeah.
Totally different space. But guess what? How do you think I got into the tech space? Because actually, I learned from other international students. Because what was happening is, I was looking at all the Africans or Kenyan students that I knew from my school. We have very few of us. And actually, all of us were struggling because, like I said, even I had to extend school by 1 semester because I couldn't find a job immediately.
But you see, Dr. also said, listen, even here in the country, we have international students, right?
Yes.
So there's that option to also interact with people from other institutions, not institutions, but from other parts of the country as well. So I'm really looking for that unique thing that we can get there. But even before you think about, I mean, as you think about that, people would also be curious to see, because we're trying to understand the whole Finland saga and so many other, you know, programs that are run by private, you know, entities or organizations who say we offer scholarship, right? So you come, you pay some certain fee, and then you get into the program, and then we give you, you know, like we help you through the process, because again, there's still no guarantee, right? So the difference between that and the Finland saga, because there were also promises that were made, and majority of the times, and what Mercy said when I was watching her story is, we trusted because this was a county government initiative. So it was very easy for them to trust that this is something legit, but then, you know, turns out to be something totally different. So I'll come back to you to really understand how that works. Do these people that you help go out, are they expected to pay back? Because we've seen a lot, you know, happen. Where, yes, once you're done with the studies and whatnot, you need to pay back the money, right? So then how does that work for you, and how is it different from this whole Finland, you know, saga thingy? But Dr. Harry as well, we still have international students come here to study, right? And that unique thing that I'm asking Bob, what is it being offered there? Because like I said, majority of the students who go there, it's not just for education alone, they're also looking for job opportunities, which again, they will have to have 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs to sustain the expenses there.
So a number of things drive students to go abroad.
Okay.
But as far as I'm concerned, interaction is the least of them.
Yeah.
May not even exist. We have African students suffering depression in the West, because you live with neighbors who can't even say hi to you. So that is real. I studied abroad
as well.
for a short time. I refused a full-time PhD scholarship to stay away for many years, and went for a sandwich program and was abroad for some time.
Why was that? Why did you refuse?
That's a whole subject of discussion.
Okay, all right.
But I refused a full-time scholarship, PhD scholarship, and opted for a sandwich program that will let me stay here, study while working.
Okay.
The experience abroad of interaction is not a good one.
Okay.
We have a lot of students going through depression because you are so alone, and you have neighbors, you have classmates whom you hardly can talk. So that is not the driver. The driver for many is actually the hope that they'll get a job. For those who are going to the West, generally. For those who are going to India and to Uganda, there was a time when Kampala International University had more Kenyan students than Ugandans. For those who are going to the East and going to the region to study, most of them are being driven by cost. They're looking at the cost of education in Kenya and comparing with those countries and finding that it is cheaper there. And so they're going there. And that's why I mentioned with the new funding model, we are likely to see those numbers increase. Those who are going to India, those who are going to our neighboring countries. I think that the one thing we need to be very clear about is that this country faces a massive unemployment problem. That unemployment problem is driving young Kenyans, and not just Kenyans, young Africans, because we have seen the crisis in the northern Africa, where fellows are trying to be smuggled to Greece and to the rest of Europe. That crisis cannot be solved by education. that is a crisis that needs to be solved by economic policies that create employment opportunities. So we need to separate these things.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, yes, if we are looking at quality education, the last study that was done by the Inter-University Council of East Africa still rated Kenya above the other countries in the region, even though it wasn't very encouraging, because they said 49% of Kenyan graduates have the competency that their papers say they have. Okay. And that was the highest in the region. The other countries were lower than that. So what is it that we can do about our universities to make them attract our students? Several things. One, we need to streamline our universities on the issue of them being accountable to the students. Okay. Because there is a lack of accountability to the students. I would like to hear his story with the University of Nairobi, how it became difficult to finish. But I also know, because I taught in the university for a while, for actually a whole 11 years, so it's not a short time. I know that we have had challenges with universities failing to be accountable to students. So you finish your course, and for 3 years you are chasing missing marks, and you're being told the person who taught you left, and so the marks is not there. Those are some of the things that would drive a parent who has resources to take their child to a university elsewhere. And I think we can streamline that as well.
I see that. All right, and then so many other things that need to be dealt with and streamlined in our universities. So that, again, like you're saying, Daktari, we attract many students to study locally, because again, our education system is not all bad. Just a few things that we need to sort here and there. When we come back, Bob will tell us why he went to Strathmore University and left University of Nairobi, but also what are some of the misconceptions that people have as far as studying abroad versus studying here, the intention behind it, which again we have covered pretty much majority of the same, but what is it that people need to know when you get on ground? All right, and even coming back for those ones who choose to come back into the country. And like I said, we're hoping to have Mercy, and Mercy is with us, joining us via Zoom. So Mercy, it's good to see you. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, she's trying to get situated. Okay, we cannot hear you, but yes, so let's get you situated, and then we'll come back to hear your story. How are you? How are things now? The last time you spoke, you said things were not okay. You were not doing very well. You are a graduate from Kabrak University, but here you are. You are a hairdresser, and you are selling porridge to at least survive, given what again happened. And this is as far as the Finland scholarship saga is concerned. So the big question is, how are you doing right now? And do you still want to go and study abroad despite everything that happened? So we'll be getting all that from Mercy as well after the break. Stay with us. But like I said, if you have, sought opportunities here and there to go and study abroad, how has it worked for you? We want to hear from you as well at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, or better yet, give us a call. But we'll do all that after the break. Stay with us.
Your best skin with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Body Lotion with 5-in-1 complete care. The deeply nourishing formula prevents your skin from drying with precious cocoa butter and deep moisture for smooth and healthy looking skin. It's Butter's birthday month, and you can enjoy free shopping of up to 500 bob. Offer starts at 2,499 only. Visit your nearest Butter store today.
My name is Amos Kipruda, 2022 London Marathon Champion. I'll be running Berlin Marathon on 24th September. Watch me live on NTV.
playing video games at a professional level takes a lot of skill, a lot of practice, a lot of discipline, just like any other sport. It's not an easy journey, especially when you have a lot of eyes on you and you're coming in as a minority in the space. Here in Kenya, I'd like to think I'm well loved, but feeling all that love in South Africa, it feels like, yo.
The crowd is into it.
I think we're over. It's over.
The crowd is into it. Great block. Oh, this one is over. Yeah.
I almost lost my mind when Halia was kidnapped. The girl is still in shock. She is lying and cannot get up from her bed.
This conversation is over. I will deal with all my problems myself. None of you should be concerned how I will do it. So it was you. Now, if you think that I'm going to be grateful for this favor, if you expect me to thank you for this, that I'm going to bow in your presence, then you are completely mistaken.
It's Bata's birthday month, and you can enjoy free shopping of up to 500 bob. Offer starts at 2,499 only. Visit your nearest Bata store today. It's Bata's birthday month, and you can enjoy free shopping of up to 500 bob. Offer starts at 2,499 only. Visit your nearest Bata store today.
Mumetuita meeting sisi na wazazi wetu. Mkasema meeting ni ya 9 AM. Number 1. Mulifika saa ngapi? Probably you don't expect me to ask such a question, but these are the people that you elected you for you to serve them. I may seem very foolish in front of you considering I am very young. Guga hajakula kitu tangu asubuhi. Tumeleta wazazi wetu ni wagonjwa, wengine wako na pressure, wengine wako na diabetes, wengine wako na depression. Mr. Chelili, nilisoma na watoto wako watatu. Nataka nikuulize swali moja. Unajua dawa ya depression? Do you know any antidepressant? You don't. Nilisoma na Beryl B. Ako UK saa hii tukiongea. Nilisoma na Bernard ako Australia. Nilisoma na Bill ako Australia. Tulisoma primary. Mr. Barorot, tukikuwa meeting ulituambia kuna watoto wako wengine wako majuu. Ukasema ati ukaambia wa parents. Parents, si hao watoto wote ni wetu. Si wote ni wetu. Ako wapi mtoto wa Barorot hapa asimame? Ako wapi wa B?
All right, very angry Mercy over there. Mercy Chebet joins us now via Zoom. Mercy Chebet Tarus, good to have you this morning. Thank you so much for sparing your time. Looking at that, and now, how are you? First of all, let's just start from there. How are you? How are things going for you?
First of all, thank you for having me on the show. I am okay. I was very mad on that show, considering they had called us and we had availed ourselves very early. Some of us had arrived at 7 AM, and then they got to show up at 12:30. Yeah, so
yeah.
But otherwise, I still expect them to refund us though.
Yeah, that is what I want to know. Paint the picture for us exactly. Where did the anger stem from? Why were you and so many other students and the parents as well so angry? Could you just remind us what exactly was happening and what you were promised versus what was delivered?
So we were told to pay to a issue overseas education fund. So that we could go to Finland or Canada. I paid to go to Canada, and I was promised that I would go to Canada last year, December. By December, and then in the middle of me going to Canada, things came. The embassy is dealing with the issues in Ukraine, so please give them time. And then after that, they called us for a meeting. They'd call us for meetings, and then lie to us always. And I couldn't see the end of that coming. That's why I actually called out Barurot very clearly, because he was the one who would come to meetings and lie to us.
All right.
So we were told by December, and then after that, we were promised by February we will go.
Okay.
And then later.
Yeah, the big question is, so the money that you were told to pay, first of all, how much were you supposed to pay? What exactly was it supposed to cover? And what exactly did you know much about the program and how it worked, and what it was for in terms of what it was going to offer? Was it more of a scholarship, or what exactly, was the details? But we need to know what you were paying and what was it supposed to cover.
It was actually not a scholarship. It was supposed to look like a scholarship, to give us a blanket. That is what they said with the embassy, so that we wouldn't be asked for bank statements. It was different amounts for different universities. I was supposed to go to Northern Lights College, so the fees that I was supposed to pay was 60% of the total for 1 year, which is 600,000 shillings. And then we were told that we were supposed to pay accommodation fee, which is 300,000 shillings. And then we were supposed to also pay visa processing fees and biometric fees, which they gave us at 82,000. And of course, medicals. Now, medicals I paid at IOM. I paid 36,070 shillings. And then we were supposed to cover our flights and upkeep. So they told us flights would be around 280,000 shillings. And then upkeep, instead you go with 100,000 shillings. So we paid 600 plus 300 for accommodation and 82,000 for visa processing. So I paid a total of 982,000 to that account.
Okay, and you were supposed to go study for how long?
I was supposed to study for 2 years.
Okay.
It was a diploma.
Yeah.
A diploma. I was supposed to study for 2 years, diploma in social service work.
Okay, so essentially you're facilitating for your own education to go abroad, but now it was more of through a certain program, but again, like you're saying, wasn't a scholarship, but it was made to look like a scholarship. My big question is, and that case again is still being investigated, so might not go into so much details, but my question is, what was the motivation for you specifically, because there's so many other students who wanted to go study abroad, but what was the biggest motivation for you? Because you are a graduate from Kabarak University, right?
Yeah.
So what was the biggest motivation? Why did you want to go study abroad and yet you had a degree? Well, is it a degree from Kabarak University?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So what was the biggest motivation for you?
Number one, unemployment.
Okay.
Because you can see, yes, I am a graduate. I have still not been employed. I am a teacher by profession. I have a TAC number, but I have not been employed. The only time that I got close to employment was I went to volunteer at a school in Bomet, and then they had told me that they would absorb me, but then life happened, so I wasn't absorbed. After that, I came out and wondered, now what am I going to do? So let me first go and learn how to do hair, and then and get a gig somewhere to support myself before I go abroad.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then there's time. I was thinking, our education system is not so bad, but then the problem normally comes in with time, because you're supposed to finish your master's in 2 years, but then you finish your master's in 2 years in Kenya. it will always be something.
Okay. All right. So time and employment, those are the biggest factors that drove you to make that decision to go abroad. All right. Dr. I'm curious to hear what you have to say. I know we talked about there's so many issues with our education system right here in the country that we need to streamline. But just listening to what Mercy, is saying, I am a graduate. I do not have a job. So I figured, you know what, let me maybe go abroad, studied something totally different from what she had studied, and even still there's this whole issue that is happening. And from what she said, she was essentially facilitating for her education. So I wonder what the help was coming from that end.
There was no help. There were someone simply set out to exploit the frustration and the desperation among unemployed Kenyan youth, and that is very unfortunate that leaders who are supposed to be the ones looking for solutions to these problems would look at those problems as a cash cow. I think it was unfortunate. But as I mentioned earlier, we have this huge unemployment problem in the country. Unemployment problem that is affecting education. And how is it affecting education? Because we came from a background where education was purely for employment. For a very long time, children went to school, they were told, when you finish studying, you will get a good job and you will. So we have had that for years. That is inculcated into our mindsets that you learn for employment. So when you now go to school, graduate, and you don't find a job, you start to doubt the quality and the value of the education that you got. And that starts to make people think that maybe another set of another option for education will help to address that problem. I think we need to separate these two problems. We need to separate an employment problem that we face, which is generated by economic factors and to be honest, very poor policies around how to make the economy function, and worst of it, corruption, which I think Kenyans no longer care about. We don't really care whether there's corruption or not.
If anything, we have normalized. It's like, in Kenya.
Yeah, we don't think corruption is a problem. But corruption has made it impossible for young Kenyans to self-employ. I hear people telling young Kenyans to be job creators. I created a job after my undergraduate. It was killed by corruption. So corruption cannot allow young Kenyans to self-employ. Because how do they self-employ? When government is the largest buyer of goods and services, and people in government have formed their own companies to supply government.
It doesn't really, it doesn't.
Where would the youth who self-employ sell their services and goods that they produce? So we need to start to say that as a country, it is important that we deal with the factors that are creating the massive unemployment that we have, because that can be dealt with and must be dealt with. Then we must now start also to reorient people and tell young Kenyans and grown-ups, because grown-ups are the ones perpetuating this notion, that education is not for employment. So that you seek quality education, because quality education has value in itself to you as a person. It has value in what quality of decisions you make about your life, about your economic plans, and it has value in terms of how you contribute to the society and the country. So we need to deal with that, I think, and stop actually pushing young Kenyans into all manner of directions because of, if you go here, this is where you'll get employed. We are now trying to push university graduates into TVETs again to tell them, no, you have your BCom, but if you went and did some masonry, you get a job.
You get more.
Come on.
No. Yeah,
we need to separate the education from employment.
For employment, I hear you, Doctor. Of course, the biggest question is then how do we? I know you said yes, train. Have people understand that you do not study for employment, right? And all those things. And Bob, listening to Mercy, and I'm pretty sure there's so many other Kenyans who are watching us this morning and saying, yeah, I was promised by so-and-so, I was promised by this institution that runs this particular agency, I was promised, and so many people, because again, parents want better for their children in terms of education, in terms of opportunities and all those things. So it will be very easy for parents to, again, hearing what Mercy was saying, to find ways and means to get this money because my child has an opportunity to study abroad and then come back home, possibly, and help us as a family. And that is what a lot of parents were saying. So what are some of these red flags that then people need to be aware about when you're talking about such programs? One of the things that clearly comes out is, though essentially just funding for their own education, it's just that, you know, these people are trying to make it look like they're helping, but really they weren't.
All right. So first of all, I think listening to Mercy, students need to understand that also, students and parents needs to understand that there's nothing that is guaranteed also in this whole process. Okay. Whether you're using whatever program that they had or any other agency, because at the end of the day, even getting admission to a school, it's the school that makes that decision.
Okay.
Hata kama umepitia sijui agency gani or the government or whatever, it's the school that makes that decision. Issues to do with visas, it's actually the prerogative of the US government, Canadian, Finland, whatever, to issue visas. Yeah. You might end up actually getting admission, but still not get the visa. But
then, so then why go through these agencies? I mean, if nothing is guaranteed, because majority of the times people would say, I could go through agency X because there are better chances. There is sort of like a partnership. And you know, like for example, in schools, that if I come to your agency, I sort of have a guarantee that I would go get the slot because there is some sort of partnership. But then if that is not the case, then why go through the agencies in the first place?
Well, for example, like us, okay. So we work with about 10 universities in the US. And basically what we do is we negotiate tuition fee waivers for students. We negotiate a few other things because mostly, like for example, international students, there are some things that you are required to provide to the school, which are sometimes not necessary. Okay. If you don't have like an agency that is supporting you through this process, you may be asked to provide, for example, evaluation of transcripts, which is the school needs, but you know, from where we stand, maybe we don't need it. Things like, for example, test of English as a foreign language, no things like those. But if you are going, for example, through an agency, maybe some of those things might be waived. If it's an agency, for example, like us, I'm not talking about the government that was running that program. Now, but at the end of the day, even though there is MOUs between the agencies or the organizations with the universities, still even admission is not guaranteed because sometimes also you find that we may apply to you to a school, but for that intake, this class is already full. Okay. You had all the qualifications, but the school cannot accept you. So you may be pushed to the next intake, which will be the next year. So you may find yourself, you are thinking you would go to the US or Canada, maybe this year, but you end up actually spending maybe 2 years before you leave. Okay. And of course also you may be denied visas.
And this
like
person
I said, I was denied visa so many times, so you can be denied even 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
And
times.
we hear that aspect. But then again, now that I'm joining your agency, so I have to pay some money, right?
Yes.
To the agency.
Correct.
So if I do not get a slot, okay, within the specific time frame, so what's going to happen? Are you going to return my money? Or if I get the slot, manage to finish school, manage to get a job, do you expect me to pay your money back? Because again, like you said, a lot of agencies would run and say we offer scholarship programs, but really they aren't scholarship programs. As you think about that, can we speak to Mercy? So Mercy, a lot has happened over time. And my biggest question is, so understanding and having gone through this process, investigations are still ongoing, you're still trying to find your footing. Do you still want to go and study abroad?
I still want to go study abroad. And on that note, let me counter something that Bob has said. It is true that nothing is guaranteed in this process, but it is important to consider that some of us had also been given letters of acceptance. So you've been given a letter of acceptance, and then you're now asked to pay. So when you pay, it is like the money did not get to school, you see. So yes, we understand nothing is guaranteed, and the visas, you may not be able to get them, but you still want try. And then they had also signed an MOU, as he has said. They had signed MOUs with the colleges and the universities there to give them tuition waivers and to not ask for bank statements from us. Yeah, basically that.
Yeah.
So I understand that nothing is guaranteed, but I still want to go abroad though.
Okay, all right. So then what are the lessons that you have learned through this process? Because again, like you said, it was not good at all. You know, so many parents had to sell, you know, their pieces of land. Others had to sell like different, you know, property that they own just to make sure that they get the money to, you know, afford their children these opportunities. But then that did not happen. So what is it that you have learned throughout this process? And like you said, you still want to go, okay? So what is it that you feel you would do better to avoid such cases? I'm not just talking about you as Mercy, but also as a family as well, because so much money was spent in a process that wasn't there in the first place.
Yeah, so number one, don't deposit your money into another person's account unless it is directly to the school.
Okay.
That is number one. Number two, there is a lot of corruption, and it is very heartbreaking to see that the leaders that we put in place do not want to speak against corruption. And yesterday I was asking them, is it because they are together with them? Are they in cohorts? So number two, I have learned that there is a lot of corruption in our county, in our country.
Okay. So then how different are you going to approach this process?
Number three, try to go on your own. This thing of carrying a whole 100 students on your back it won't work. It won't work, because that is the idea that the county government was selling to us. And honestly, I won't buy that idea anymore. Also, just carry out the due diligence that you can.
Yeah, it's very important, really, very important, due diligence. So what is it that you will tell fellow students who are watching you this morning and thinking, well, hey, they went through all that, all right, and now you know better, you have learned the lessons, and even as we wait to what will come from the investigations, and again, like you're saying, we still want our money back. So for those students who are watching you this morning and thinking, okay, so then what do we do? What is it that you would tell them? And this is as far as seeking opportunities to go abroad very quickly. And what is it that you want to see change in our universities? Because like you said, time is one of the things, you know, it takes a longer period of time and unemployment as well. So what is it that you want to see change in those two areas?
I would like to tell the students that want to go abroad, please carry out your due diligence. Also, do not deposit your monies into any account, be it agency or government, unless it is the school itself. Because now, if you deposit your money to the school, you can tell them to return your money minus maybe processing fees, which will be easier, instead of depositing it into a government account like this one of ours here.
Okay.
What I would like changed in our universities. Imagine corruption is everywhere, even in university.
Yeah.
There's that I was able to talk to. Who had done a master's in one of our universities. It was actually a PhD, and when it was time to defend the last, their last defense, they were told that they are going to graduate this year because they have just spent 2 or 3 years. So they were told that time is not enough, so you have to still stay. So they stayed for 2 more years and then they graduated.
Oh, wow.
So there's corruption everywhere. It is very sad. And they were referred to by their second name, like me. My name is Chebet.
Yeah.
So you say, Chebet, you have spent only 3 years, which is not enough. I think you can see there's also tribalism there.
Okay.
We need to improve on accountability in our universities, because the students have done their due diligence, they have been able to finish their thesis, everything they have done, but now the problem falls on the lecturers who probably want to be given some amount of money to enable you to continue, and that is very. So we need to get rid of corruption in universities, in the whole country, in the government. Basically.
All right, deal with corruption, biggest issue. Okay, so thank you so much, Mercy. But I'm just yes or no. Were you offered a job by the Narok senator? He wrote it on his Twitter account. So were you? I think a lot of Kenyans trying to figure. Were you offered a job or not?
No.
No. Okay, so you're still
offered a job, but then later he came and said that I would have loved to offer you a job, but there's no job for me to give you. So you see how that looks? So no, basically no.
Okay, so now you're still doing hairdressing and still selling porridge to sustain yourself and your family.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mercy, for your time this morning, and we hope for the very best from the investigations, and even for you know what you're still pursuing, and that is to study abroad, and again, you know, better opportunities for not only yourself but for your family as well. So all the very best, and thank you for being honest and for speaking with us this morning. Really, really appreciate that. And of course, Bob, very quickly, the question that I asked: will you expect to pay my money back? Pay your money back as well, very quickly, and then we'll finish with the tie, because we really need to end the show like right now. So very, very quickly in terms of what people need to know.
All right. So in the Kenya Lift program, we finance mostly our students through unsecured student loans, which are actually supposed to be repaid later once they're done with school.
Okay.
Repayment period is 10 years. 6 months after you graduate, you start repaying. Whether you're in the US or back here in Kenya, you still have to repay your loan. So maybe one thing that I need to emphasize
very quickly, in like 10 seconds.
Sometimes students think that this whole process is a scholarship, which is usually not, because also you can hear from them. So you really need, as a student, you need to understand whether this is a full scholarship or whether it's an arrangement where you have to take a loan and pay back, things like those, so that you are well aware before you get into the program, and that will, you know, get rid of all the uncertainties that you may have.
So due diligence is what you're saying.
Due diligence is very, very important.
All right, Dr. to sum it up, like we said, there is employment, and you know there's also a bit of issues going on in our universities. It does not mean that our universities are not offering quality education to our people. What would you say, cap up, you know, all this conversation, and what people really need to know as far as seeking opportunities to study abroad, because you also studied.
I was a beneficiary of 2 scholarships. When I was doing my master's, I had a scholarship. When I was doing my PhD, I had a scholarship. And there are a lot of scholarships out there, except that they are very competitive. So what our young graduates need is to be able to hook up with mentors, people in the universities who have already benefited from these scholarships in their communities, to be able to be guided on how to search for these scholarships and understand that a scholarship and admission to a university are 2 different things. Get your admission, search for a scholarship. If you don't find and you have a family that is able to send you there, let them deal with the university directly. If you have issues with visas, look for agencies that will help you to process visas. There are some legitimate agencies. Look for these agencies to help you with the processes now. Not the admission to the university, not the payment of fees, but the processes of how you get yourself out of the country. But all in all, I think I want to challenge our leaders. Please fix the problem with youth unemployment. It is affecting this country in a very bad and insidious ways.
I see. I see that, Dr. Thank you so much, and we hope that certainly something will be done, even as we hope for the best for our young people as well, who are seeking opportunities both here in the country and abroad. But for now, I'd like to say goodbye. Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, education expert here with us this morning, Bob Mwiti, Director, Kenya EdLift Program, and Mercy Chabet Tarus, who is a graduate who was hoping to get better opportunities abroad, but that did not happen. And we hope for the very best. She's still hopeful, so we hope that that will still happen for her. But for now, enjoy the rest of your day. Let's keep the conversation going online at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you on Monday next week. Goodbye.